We continue to study chapter 1. Last time we introduced you international finance, the preliminary of the international finance. Today we are going to start from what we have learned last time. Last time we have introduced you Section 1, International Transactions, the balance of payments, definition, the items of balance of payments, current account, non-financial services, investment income, unrequited transfers, the capital and financial account, official international reserves, special joint rights, statistical discrepancy, the table of balance of payments. We have told you the table of balance of payments. The form of elements. The table of balance of payments consist of 4 parts: current account, capital and financial account, official international reserves, statistical discrepancy, and we have learned the calculation formula of balance of international payments. The calculation formula of balance of international payments, we should remember total balance of payments equal current account balance plus capital and financial account balance plus net errors and omissions. Total balance of international payments plus total change in official international reserves equals 0. From this formula, we can calculate the total change in official international reserves. Third, total balance of international payments equal credit digit minus debt digit. Today we are going to study Section 2, balance of payments, surplus and deficit. 第2节，国际收支盈余和赤字。The balance of payments are surplus. In another word, we can say the surplus of balance of payments. Balance of payments surplus means that in a certain period of time, usually 1 year, the total income of country's foreign economic transactions is greater than the total expenditure. In a short word, we can say The surplus of balance of payments means one country's foreign economic income minus the total expenditure in foreign currency. So we should know what's the meaning of the surplus of balance of payments. The opposite definition is balance of payments deficit. Balance of payment deficit means that in a certain period of time, usually 1 year, the total income of countries' foreign economic transactions is less than the total expenditure. In another word, we can say the deficit of balance of payments is the one country's foreign economic incomes is less than total expenditure in foreign currency. So the surplus and deficit are the opposite definition. We should know the difference between surplus and deficit. Surplus means income is greater than expenditure. Deficit is income is less than expenditure. How to calculate the surplus or balance of payments? We can calculate the surplus or balance of payments through autonomous items. Autonomous receipts. Autonomous receipts minus autonomous payments equals surplus or deficit. If autonomous receipts more than autonomous payments, we call it a surplus. Otherwise, we call it a deficit. We should know autonomous receipts minus autonomous payments. In another word, we can say foreign economic income minus foreign economic expenditure equal surplus or deficit. Autonomous items and compensatory items. The exports and imports of goods and services and capitals transaction. Carried out by individuals or enterprises for the purpose of pursuing profits is called autonomous transactions. We must remember what's the meaning of autonomous transactions, also called autonomous items. autonomous items, we can also say this definition as current items. Autonomous items means current items. When a deficit occurs due to imbalance of payments, transactions to make up for the deficit are called compensatory transactions, or called accommodating transactions. From this page of PPT, we should know what's the meaning of autonomous transaction and compensatory transaction or accommodating transaction. But it's difficult to distinguish autonomous transaction and compensatory transactions. So this method of calculate the balance of payments surplus is almost useless. From these continents, we should know autonomous items and compensatory items is useful in definition, but when this calculation method is applied to the actions, it will be almost useless. We should remember the definition of autonomous items and compensatory items, but this method cannot use in the real actions because it's difficult to distinguish autonomous transaction and compensatory transactions. Let's go on to see the trade account and the current account. These two accounts derived much of their importance because its estimates are published on a monthly basis by most developed countries. What really makes a current account surplus or deficit important is that the surplus means that the country and the whole is earning more than spending. Hence, is increasing its stock of claims on the rest of the world. While deficit means that the country is reducing its net claims on the rest of the world. Oh, how can we understand this page of PPT? There are two definitions. Current account surplus or current account deficit means one two country transaction trade goods or services between two countries. One country earns income from another country by trading goods or services. If a country has a current account surplus, means this country export more goods and services to another country. If a country has a current account deficit, means this country import more goods and services from another country. In another word, a current account surplus or deficit means the country as a whole is earning more than spending. When a country is deficit, means this country earning less than spending. Let's go on. The basic balance. The basic balance, this is the current account balance plus the net balance of long-term capital flows. It was argued that any significant change in the basic balance must be a sign of fundamental change in the direction of the balance of payments. The more volatile elements, such as short-term capital flows and changing official reserve, regarded as below the line items. Let's go on to the official shipments balance. The official shipments balance. What's the meaning of this? The official shipment balance focuses on the operation that monetary authorities have to undertake to finance any imbalance in the current and capital account. The official shipments concept of surplus or deficit is not as relevant to countries that have floating exchange rates as it is to those with a fixed exchange rate. We should understand the official settlement balance means. Official settlement balance focuses on the operation that the monetary authorities have to undertake to finance any imbalance in the current and capital account. We should know what the meaning of this settlement. This segment tells us that when a country's current account is unbalanced, the government or monetary authority have to undertake to balance the imbalance in current and capital accounts. Means when a country's current and capital accounts is unbalanced, the country must take actions to rebalance these two accounts. But the effect of these actions is well with fixed exchange rate than floating exchange rates. Let's see. In order to understand what we have learned above, we should see table 1.2 summary of key balance of payments concepts. Let's see trade balance. Trade balance has two items: exports of goods. Exports of goods. Imports of goods. Equal trade balance. We should know one, such as there are two countries have trade with each other. Give an example. There are two countries, country A and country B. When country A exports good to country B, in country A's account will plus the number of exports. We should know when country A exports goods to country B, in country A's account, we should plus the number of exports. When country A imports goods from country B, in country A's account should minus the number of imports. Simply, we can say exports we should write plus, imports we should write minus. Then all the imports of goods minus imports of goods will be trade balance. will be trade balance. Let's see the current account balance. Current account balance. Trade balance. Let's see trade balance. Plus imports of non-financial services. Plus interest, dividends, and profits received. Plus unilateral receipts. Minus imports. Minus imports of non-financial services. Minus interest, dividends, and profits paid. Minus unilateral payments abroad. Finally, equal current account balance. Now we should remember what's the meaning of current account balance. There are so many items. 3 plus items and 3 minus items. We should remember these items and together will finally equal current account balance. Let's go on. Let's see basic balance. Current account balance plus balance on long-term capital account equal basic balance. We should know basic balance equal current account balance plus long-term capital account. Conform basic balance. In another word, we can say basic balance frankly equal current account balance plus long-term capital account balance. Let's see official settlement balance. Basic balance plus balance on short-term capital account plus statistical error equal official settlement balance. We should know the relation between official settlement balance and basic balance. Let's go on. Section 3. Economic forces and balance of payments. In Chinese, we can say 第三节经济力量和国际收支平衡 economic forces and balance of payments. Let's see. 1. Conditions for equilibrium. Let's see what's the meaning of condition for equilibrium. In economics, the essential meaning of equilibrium is balancing opposite forces. In the context of the balance of payments, there is equilibrium between the nation's economy is in basic adjustment to the rest of the world. Using balance of payments terminology, this state means that the aggregate of receipts transactions equals the aggregate of payments, the transactions. From this part of PPT, we should understand what's the meaning of condition for equilibrium. We should know when a countries get the aggregate of receipts equals aggregate of payments, means this country come to the balance, the equilibrium. From a balance of payments perspective, governments tend to interfere with markets in at least two fundamental ways. First, governments may restrict domestic economic activity to achieve a better overall balance on external accounts. We refer to this restriction as unemployment effect. Two, governments may place quotas or tariffs on the merchandise imports to improve the overall balance of payments performance. We refer to this action as the control effects. So from this page, we should understand when a country has unequilibrium, they have two fundamental methods to solve this problem. One, government may restrict domestic economic activity to achieve better overall balance on external accounts. Means this country can restrict imports goods or services. And in another word, we can say government can also place quotas or tariffs on merchandise imports. Means control effect. From the two methods, this country can get the equilibrium account. We have seen that at least 3 requirements must be met before a country's balance of payments is equilibrium. First, the total basic or official settlements receipts and payments transaction must be in a balance. Second, the domestic economy must be at full employment. Third, the country should allow all sectors to operate on this basis of free and competitive markets. From this page, we should understand if we want change the unequilibrium to equilibrium, the country had 2 methods to solve this problem, but this action must be have 3 requirements must be met. This page tells us that if these 3 conditions is not be met, even if this country has 2 methods, from above we have learned, this country will not be solved the problem of unequilibrium. Let's see economic forces. Economic forces. 4 key economic forces influence a country's balance of payments. These are the inflation rate, real GDP, growth rate, interest rate, and the spot rate of exchange. Let's see table 1.3. Balance of payments adjustment to economic forces. Relative inflation rate, real GDP growth rate, relative interest rate, spot exchange rate. Let's see. How can relative inflation rate influence the balance of payments adjustment? Differences between countries' inflation rate affect competitiveness of exports, imports. This item, relative inflation rate, can influence one country's competitiveness of exports or imports. These items can affect one country's export competitiveness and import competitiveness. So, relative inflation rate will finally influence this country's balance of current account. Finally, will influence the international payments. These items we can also regard as price level mechanism, or we can regard these items as price level mechanism. Let's see real GDP growth rate. Real GDP growth rate. We should know the two concepts of real GDP, nominal GDP in macroeconomics. This item means real GDP growth rate. Real GDP growth rate. Differences in countries' income growth exert greater or lesser pull on imports. Real GDP growth rate will influence one country debt imports or real GDP growth rate also influence one country's exports. So when a country's real GDP growth rate increase, means this country has get more income. and will make this country import more goods and services. In another word, we can also in another way. When the country real GDP growth rate increase, means this country has can export more goods or services to foreign countries. So when a country's real GDP growth rate increase or reduce, these countries' international balance of payments will be influenced by real GDP growth rate. These items we can say as economic activity mechanism. Let's see 3. Relative interest rate. Relative interest rate differences and expectations in countries' interest rate lead to capital flows. This item, what's the meaning of relative interest rate? Relative interest rate means two countries' interest rate compared. When a country's interest rate increase, and another country's interest rate is constant, means country A's interest rate relatively increase will make capital flow from country B to country A. This item, relative interest rate, we can also say this item as capital flow mechanism. Let's see spot exchange rate. Actual and expected change. In exchange rate, affect trade flows and capital flows. What's the meaning of this explanation? Spot exchange rate means current exchange rate. When current exchange rate changes, will influence one country's export and import, and also influence capital flows capital flows from one country to another. So this item, spot exchange rate, we can regard it as exchange rate mechanism. Students, now let's have a short break. Then after the short rest, we continue to our lesson. Now let's have a short break. Let's go on our lesson. We have learned table 1.3, balance of payments adjustment to economic forces. In another word, we can say economic forces can influence the balance of payments adjustment. There are 4 items can influence the balance of payments. Oppositely say, we can say balance of payments also influence 4 items. So we can say 4 items and the balance of payments have the influence each other. Let's see 3, process of adjustment. This adjustment is in response This adjustment is in response to the various economic forces that impact the country's balance of payments. Difference in inflation from country to country affect the competitive positions of goods and services that are traded. Difference in real economic growth between countries also impact their respective balance of payments. From this page of PPT, we should understand if there are difference between 2 countries' inflation. This difference will influence the country's balance of payments. And if there are difference between 2 countries in real economic growth, will influence the 2 countries' international payments balance. How can this difference influence influence the balance of payments if there are difference in inflation in two countries will affect the two countries' competitive positions of goods and services that are traded. Means when the difference between the two countries are in inflation will inflect the two countries' competitiveness of goods and services which are traded. Let's go on. Countries with a high growth rate may exhibit higher real interest rate. In their respective capital market. High real interest rate attract capital inflows. Changes in foreign exchange rate also influence the balance of payments transactions. A rise in the value of a nation's currency reduces the competitiveness of that nation's export, and also make imports more attractively priced to residents. From this page, we should understand how can the high growth rate influence the balance of payments, and how can the foreign exchange rate, especially spot foreign exchange rate, influence the balance of payments. First paragraph tells us how high growth rate influence the capital flow. In a simple word, we can say high real interest rate attract the capital inflows. Means when a country's real interest rate high, this country will attract capital inflows. If a country's real interest rate reduce, the country's market attractiveness will become lower. Then capital will outflows from this country. So from this paragraph, we should understand the real interest rate increase or decrease will influence how influence international capital inflow to this country or outflow from this country. Then will change the balance of payments. And foreign exchange rate, change in foreign exchange rate also influence the balance of the payments transactions. A rise in the value of a nation's currency reduces the competitiveness of the nation's exports, and also make imports more attractively priced to residents. This paragraph tells us that when foreign exchange rate fluctuate, or we can say if foreign exchange rate change will influence one country's export competitiveness, and also make these countries' import become attractively in price level to residents. So foreign exchange rate increase or reduce or decrease will influence these countries' export and import amount. Finally, will influence the balance of international payments. Now, today's new lessons. That's all for today's new lessons. At the rest time, we should go over what we have learned today. Don't leave the class until 11 to 55. 同学们今天的新课就讲到这里11点55下课大家不要离开课堂下课后再离开。